Hello and welcome to It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. This is a podcast for business leaders and business owners just like you. We're going to be sharing top tips on how to develop yourself personally and professionally. I'm going to be sharing updated podcasts on a regular basis, so please do make sure you subscribe, and I really hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. Today you've got just me, Pete, and I wanted to talk to you about the loneliness and sacrifice of saying yes. It's really tricky as an entrepreneur, as a leader, business founder, owner, director, whatever role it is you play. One of the tricky things is balancing that yes with the sacrifice it takes. So one of the key questions I always ask all of our guests is, what sacrifices have you made to get to where you are? And the tricky thing is success costs something, right? And I think we often don't reflect on that enough. I think that sometimes success is glamorized by the cars and mansions and clothes and the sort of financial things that people covet and value and seek. And that therein lies a challenge, because for every yes we give, we're saying a silent no to something else. And often the silent no is our family, our friends, the things that are most important to us. I know, for example, when I first started Flagship, I was working all the hours that God sends to be able to make it a success and ensure that it didn't fail. Because as you all know, the statistics for startups are so many fail. I can't remember exactly what they are, but something like 80-90% in the first 5 years. And we take on that burden as leaders to achieve that, and we take on teams of people and their mortgages and their responsibilities. And in the background, I was very conscious that my family are very important to me. So at that time, I pretty much closed the door on most of my friendships, for example, right? It was very difficult because I just didn't have time for them. People would be organising catch-ups and I'd have to go networking and those kinds of things. So running the business. So for example, in the evenings, I was either catching up because I'd been delivering work during the day, or I'd be marketing or doing sales work or catching up on emails, whatever it may be. So you're saying a no to something else. A good example, this morning, I've got meetings all day today. As an example, I do work myself quite hard, right? So I got up at 4 this morning. Now, that's a great thing for the business, that it's got an owner. It's got an owner called Pete who gets up at 4 in the morning to follow up on emails, make sure everything's okay, make sure people are followed up, and that nothing gets dropped. But on the other hand, the silent no is to sleep, which is important, right? So I got less than the ideal amount of sleep last night, as an example. In the same way, today, later on, after I've recorded my podcast today and the different meetings that I've got to do, this evening I'm going to a PSA event, so Professional Speakers Association. That's important for me because I want to grow the business and I need to spend time with other people who are doing those things, who are better than me. I need to make sure I'm not you need to make sure you surround yourself with people who are better than you. And I'm surrounding myself with people who are better than me. The challenge is that's in Nottingham, so it's an hour and a half away. It finishes at 9 this evening, so I'm not going to get home till 10:30. So I've been up and on it since 4 in the morning, finishing at 10:30. So I'm saying again a silent no to sleep, for example. I'm saying no to my daughter's football training tonight. I'd love to be able to take my daughter to football, and it's finding that balance is always so difficult, because for every yes, there's a no as well. And a long time ago, I interviewed Neville Wright, who's a fantastic entrepreneur and businessman, fantastic guy. Really enjoyed interviewing him. And I spoke to him about his book. So his book is The Answer is Yes, What's the Question? And that proactiveness is absolutely vital when you're going to do anything difficult. There's a discipline in that, saying yes and then working out how we're going to do it after. And being so positive and proactive, there is there is a greatness in that. There is fantastic, I say yes to, I'm training running at 6 a.m, 3 times a week. I'm wanting to, when you set goals and you're going after stuff, it's really important that we then look at the balance of what the cost is. And there is always a cost. There's a silent cost, and it's important that we keep ourselves well balanced by keeping an eye on that and making sure it's a sacrifice we're willing to take. I think that it's important to recognise the impact that those decisions have on our family, our loved ones, the things that are most important. Hi, my name's Pete, and I want to thank you for tuning into today's podcast. I'm a coach, speaker, and author. And if you want to take your personal development that bit further, did you know that I offer a mastermind program as well as one-to-one coaching? If you're interested, please do reach out on peterushmer.com. I think bear in mind all the things you say yes to. There's a this loud yes, let's make that happen. I'm not saying don't do that, but just be conscious and aware of the silent no's we're saying to parenthood, to our children, to our partners, those kinds of things. It's just really important to make sure that we respect and value that. And it's important. One of the things I do say yes to is that I have a coach, because I believe that even as a coach, I need to be coached. There's things that my brain plays tricks on me, and like anyone, we have doubts and challenges. So it's important to have a sounding board. And I think as part of that, it's important that you have that mirror held up, and you hold the mirror up, and you really think about the things that are most valuable in your life. And what we often do is we say yes to work and we prioritize work, and it's at the expense of family, for example. So we just need to think about how we find that balance. How do we not prioritize something so much that we ruin it's at the expense of everything else? And many people might find that at the weekends, for example. And I think that's just my warning to people around burnout and challenge and all the things we say yes to. Because if we say yes to working 6-7 days a week, yes, that does align with the hustle and grind culture. I see certain social media influencers talking about not having bank holidays off and not taking the weekend off. And there's a level of toxicity in that, because like you say, or like I'm saying, the all the time we say yes, there's a no that is we're unaware of. And we just need to be super aware of that, super aware, because otherwise we end up making decisions that we're not happy with. We end up in a place that we didn't really intend to. So next time you're goal setting, next time you're thinking about where you want to be, but next time you're thinking about your values and what's most important to you, just see if the decisions you're making are aligning with those values set. Are the decisions you're making aligning with the goals that you're setting? I think it's really important. I've just, it's the beginning of June, our financial new year. I set plans and goals for the organisation. And interestingly, I do it very differently now. I look at a year goal and I break it down into what's called a 12-week plan. There's a book called The 12-Week Year. It's fairly self-explanatory. Ultimately, it's about if you leave a goal for a whole year, then often what happens is you kind of work towards it, but actually all of the hard work will happen in the last little while. Whereas actually if you do a 12-week plan, then you've got a really clear, succinct 12-week plan. You've broken down that 1-year goal. You've broken it down into steps, and that's how goals become reality. So that's obviously very important. But it's about having that honest reflection around all the things you're chasing and the things that you're following up and doing. The keeping an eye on the things that you're going to drop, because we're all fallible. We can all only do so much. We've all only got 24 hours in a day, and for at least 6, 7, 8 of those hours, we do need to sleep, and we do need to find time for the important stuff. People talk about the big rocks, making sure we put the big rocks in, and then we fill the rest with smaller rocks, and then with the sand, and we sort of go through this prioritization process. But I think it's just really important to recognize that It's all well and good being proactive and saying yes, but we need to realise the impact of what that yes is costing us. So the things we do have often unintended consequences, and the more aware of those we are, the better. So thank you for listening. What is it you're saying yes to? And what is it you're saying no to by saying yes to something? Is the question I'd like you to take away and think about this week. Thanks for listening. Take care. I'll see you on a future episode. Thank you for joining us on today's It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. We really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I'm absolutely delighted that you took the time to listen, and I really hope that you'll subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes too. If you want to find out any more, please do search It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast, and you'll find it on your favourite podcast app. Thank you.